In this bathroom, I had to remove a piece of the subfloor that had water damage. So the first step was to remove the screws from the closet flange. The closet flange, by the way, was cut in the basement, so it's just hanging out right on that plywood. And I use a small Wonder Bar to pry up on the lonely nail that's holding it in place. It just popped right off of the floor. There are two mistakes that most folks make at this point. Number one, not cutting a piece of plywood to the size that you need and using it to trace over top of the I-joist or the dimensional lumber. I want to split the difference between the cut marks and the top plates in this instance. I also set my circular saw to 7/8 of an inch in terms of the depth. That way, I'm not making a big slice into the top plate of these I-joists. The other thing I do is complete my cut with an oscillating multi-tool. Because the circular saw is obviously a circle, it's really hard to not overcut to complete the cuts, so I like using an oscillating multi-tool for that. Then I use a 36-inch pry bar to pull up right where the I-joists are located. I put pressure just on the I-joist, and that allows me to pull up on this tiny piece that I'm cutting out of the subfloor. This just makes it so much easier for you to remove a small piece of the plywood. As I mentioned, the I-joists in this bathroom are 12 inches on center, but I want to use these 2-inch screws to secure a 2x4 to the back side of the toilet where there's no I-joist. I actually fasten these to the plywood ahead of time, just 2 on each corner. Then I cut a 2x4 to span underneath that by at least 2 inches on either side. I hold it in place, and then I use those 2 screws to secure the 2x4 in place. I try to center this, although with a 2x4 it's pretty bulky in this particular orientation. As long as you see 1.5 inches of it, you should be good to go. I add a screw every 4 inches, which will make it nice and secured. And that way, whenever I go to add my 3/4 inch plywood, it'll have something to fasten onto. Another big mistake is not using construction adhesive. I'm using Great Stuff Subfloor construction adhesive because it comes with this smart dispenser, and I can use this for up to 30 days. I have to shake it really, really well to mix up all the components. Then I apply it to each I-joist and that 2x4. I like to apply about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch bead, and I want it to span the entire surface of the joist so that when I put this plywood down, it won't squeak. And that's really, really important where I'm going to be placing this toilet, because obviously the toilet's going to get a lot of use and you don't want that subfloor to squeak over time. So I slowly lower the plywood piece on top of that. I don't want the Great Stuff construction adhesive to disperse. Then I walk on it to compress it, and I immediately add screws. Now in this case, what I like to do is add a screw to every corner. I do the cross pattern, and then I add a screw every 4 inches. And the reason why I do this, again, is because that's plenty of fasteners for this location, but the fasteners, because they penetrate at least 1 inch into the I-joist and the construction adhesive is there, this plywood piece will not squeak. The final step is to cut a hole into the plywood for my new closet flange. So I measure out 13 inches and come over about 18 inches off of the wall. And the reason why is that's more comfortable and it's to code. I'm going to be using a drill with a 5-inch hole saw. The reason why I like the 5-inch hole saw is it gives 1 inch on either side of the pipe coming up out of the floor, so a 3-inch closet flange can easily be solvent welded in place. I would recommend just taking your time with this so that you don't damage any plumbing that's below. You can see here we're good to go with all of our fasteners, and that's how you do a plywood subfloor repair. I hope the tips in this video help you out, and if you need more help, visit homerepairtutor.com.